We got an officer down, 1433 Murray Drive. We got an officer down.
So, first of all, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so, it's funny because just when you look at somebody's life, just professional stuff aside for a second, I was looking at how you have a daughter, Riley. I would never bring up somebody's family member, but she's in the same industry you are. And I'm looking at my life and I'm like, we kind of had kids at the same time in our lives, right? 'Cause I turned 51 Wednesday and I had my first when I was 46. I want to say that's about the ballpark. Am I in the ballpark?
Yeah, 3 years. I got married at 48 and 49 is when Riley showed up.
Yeah. So I don't know if you deal with this as poorly as I do. Like being an older dad, like I love it. Like without this experience, my life would have been horrible. Like it's changed my life. It's opened universes and doors I've never thought possible. But I also think like I want to be there when she's graduation. I want to be there. So that like life itself is a mind trip. That compounded on that is even more of a monster mind bend. Like it's just, I can't get out of that kind of, I hope I'm there. I don't know. Is that
sure? There's definitely a period of that, watching your health, watching what you do, exercising. Yeah, because physically you want to be there, mentally you want to be there. My mom's on a memory floor. She's 96 and, took about till she was 92 for her to start slipping. So very lucky in that sense. But yeah, it motivates you. It both motivates you to stay young, stay fit, be involved, and then also frightens you because, I will be older. Gosh, when she's 18, I'll be this age. Riley's 13. I'll be 67. When my youngest is 10 right now, when she's 18, that's 8 years, I'll be 70. When she's married, will I be there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Yeah.
I don't mean to start off such like a downer, but like believe me, it's a blessing having these two wonderful children. I just want to be there for the entire ride. Like I don't want to get off early at any time, So I thought that was kind of cool that you and I had that in common. Like we had kids roughly the same time of our lives. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, we just went to see Billy Joel at the Intuit Center. He's 75 and he brought out Rosella, his latest daughter. I think she must have been maybe 8, maybe 7. He's 75. So
yeah.
There's the benefit of him having daughters earlier in his life, but there's a lot of late term fathers, and there's ways that we can exploit the new health regime and stay around a little bit longer. But physically, I like to be the guy. Like I used to skydive. I was a skydiver for 15 years.
Wow.
And I told Riley, like, if you want to go when you're 18, I'll go with you. I'm going to do it. If you want to try surfing, I'll try that with you. I always go in the ocean with them. I try to practice volleyball with her. Same with Austin, whatever they want to do. I'm just trying to be there physically. Sometimes it's not as easy,
Yeah.
But,
What is skydiving's got to be a heck of a trip.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh, like what is that, Carlos? Is that the rush that you love about it? Is it the what is it?
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. You could say, oh, you were cheating death, and the rush and the adrenaline. It was just at that age when I was doing it before kids. My last jump was in 2010, and then after that, I would go to the skydiving tunnel, and that's harder to do now on your body. It's a lot of torque. But it was just a rush. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the oddballs involved in the sport, and there were families, that skydivers that were professional. Craig O'Brien married Tanya Garcia. They were a team, pro sky surfing, and she was the surfer. He was the photographer, videographer, and he's gone on to do work in many, many films, and most famously with Tom Cruise doing the high altitude, low pull jumps with the oxygen masks in Mission Impossible. And Craig is that's his job. Videography, taking amazing pictures, traveling all over the world, working for teams, working on movies. He's my age and still jumping quite a bit.
Yeah. And your daughter has a terrific agent because I deal with her often. Nikki, is it Nikki's
Nikki's her manager. Yeah.
Yeah. Nikki is fantastic. Like she's so kind and been so great to me. So I thought that was a pretty cool, oh, by the way too,
Yeah. Nikki is, the son is on, Cobra Kai.
Yes, he came on a month ago, and you talk about a great kid. Like, he is such a grounded kid, such a wonderful kid. Like,
He seems like it, and my wife, I think, has bumped into him because my wife really handles most of the interaction with Riley and Nikki, so she says as much, and that's good to hear. I met the other two kids, the gentleman with the spiked hair, and then his best buddy, who they were at Gone and gosh, maybe Calgary, Alberta, and they were playing like some nerdy game, they were apropos to their characters, but very good kids. And I know Brett Ernst as well. He was in my movie, which I'll plug, Witness Infection, because it's Halloween. We did it in 2018 with Aaron Hayes, Tara Strong, Maurice LaMarche, myself, Vince Don Vito, Joe Michelle. Check it out on Tubi, Witness Infection. But Brett Ernst, part of the cast of Cobra Kai as well, as we work our way back to Nikki's son. But yeah, all good kids. And it's good to see, It's good to see.
How great is Tubi? Tubi's like the coolest thing. Like, you don't have to, like right now I have so many subscriptions. It's like, my God, it's like, we're getting to a point where it's like a car payment, right? So it's like, you get 25 for this one. And Tubi's like, you know what? Here's some great programming. It's yours. So that's great. It's great, yours. Yeah.
If you want to help me out, I think it's still on Amazon Prime, and give me $4 to help pay for my movie, but it's okay. I'd rather you see it. It's a lot of fun. It's zombies meets an arranged Italian wedding between two mob families in witness protection. So
very cool. Very cool. What I didn't realize was I didn't know you. I kind of had a feeling that you had a good comedic timing. I didn't know you were like stand-up. I didn't know that. Yeah. Like, that's so. That is something I feel like that is the hardest skill. And I've said this before to people. I feel like stand-up comedy is one of the hardest things you can do. And I feel like if you don't, I don't feel like you can become funny. I feel like you have it or you don't. Is that a healthy way to look at it, Carlos?
I think there's a healthy way to look at it. Absolutely. But you can try, you can write, and you can get up there and entertain, and maybe a writing's better suited to you. But my neighbor, Lori Kilmartin, who I met ironically in 1987, we live on the same street here in Los Angeles. And she loves it. She loves the written joke. She loves to get there. I did it as a means to an end, and I got good at it for sure. And I went to San Francisco, and I learned back in the day, there was a guy, Warren Thomas, Mike Meehan, Robin Williams, Jeremy Kramer, Linda Hill, Marsha Warfield, Tom Kenny, Rob Schneider, Chris Titus, all kinds of people that I learned from. Alex Bennett had a radio show, Dana Gould, the old Rubes, and Bob Rubin, all these really wonderful creative guys. I had started stand-up in Sacramento in 84 in college. I had done mime and done stand-up just to get girls to like me or be something different, and 30 years later, I'm still doing it. After Reno, after the Taco Bell dog, I would go out and do gigs. But for me, there just came a time where I got married. I had kids. I had voiceover, and I went, along with Tom Kenny. If you ask Tom and I, we just jettisoned it away because Tom is SpongeBob. He's directing. He's doing all these things, playing with his band. It wasn't our true love. There are comedians like a Bill Burr, like my friend Lori Kilmartin, like a buddy of mine, Todd Rex, Orny Adams. They Kira Sultanovich, who is a mom with 2 kids and still goes out 6 days a week. They love stand-up, and they are funny. I can be funny. I was just thinking about that on my dog walk when we spoke. I'm comfortable just being a regular person. And I think all along, that's really, I grew up in the suburbs of San Francisco in the 60s and 70s, had a paper route, dishwasher, busboy, played sports. And then I got into comedy and all this kind of stuff, and I did it, and I was good at it. Won the San Francisco comedy competition against Mark Maron and Patton Oswalt.
Wow.
Went on Mark's podcast like some years later, and he was still like, he couldn't believe it. I'm like, dude, you interviewed Obama. Your life is fine. But yeah, I think you have to be, you can work it. I can be funny. And, my mom is dynamic from South America. My dad was from South America. My best friend's parents were from Glasgow, Scotland. So watching characters and the ability to do characters, I was always cutting up with friends, imitating teachers. But yeah, some people got it and some people don't. And even if you got it, you got to love it to sustain it. And I didn't love it like the aforementioned people love the art of stand-up. Jamie Kaler's a buddy of mine, and he'll have a benefit every once in a while, or there'll be a chance to go do a headlining gig one night. I'll go, yeah, I'll go back and do it.
Yeah.
But to do be on the road and work on it at the Improv, and for me to go over the hill to follow a pro at the Improv on a Friday night, it's a lot. It's a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm comfortable now just being out of it. But it's a great training for anything else you want to do in this endeavor of show business. I think if you want to try it and give it a
Yeah.
shot.
It's a hard life too. Like once you get into that, like you're traveling all the time, you have to be creative, get new material. I mean, that is a tough life, Carlos. I mean, it's just those little intangibles that, like, once you think you have it down, I feel like it's everything else that adds. It's almost like being a professional wrestler, right? You're
Yeah.
always on the road. You've got this grueling schedule. It's just, it can be hard. It's a hard life.
Yeah, if you can get into theater gigs, or you can like open for Bill Burr, or Burt Kreischer has really seemed to find his niche about being that everyman guy who just loves it.
Yes.
And he loves to perform, and that's what he does. And he gets his audience, and Gabriel Iglesias has worked so hard to build his audience. But if you don't have that, if I was the actor from Reno 911 who was coming to do comedy as Garcia on the road, people were expecting, like, you're nothing like Garcia. Why do you have the Garcia poster up on the comedy club? It's because, like, that's what I do as well as stand up. So that got hard. And for me, the loneliness as a comic, as a road comic, you're by yourself all day. You might have a feature act you can bring, and that would be fun. But conventions, which we'll talk about, are the inversion of that. I'm around people all day who dig what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I like meeting them because they're so appreciative. A lot of kids on the spectrum with developmental disabilities, kids and adults, and they're wonderful. They know everything about you, and you're surrounded by them all day, and you're sharing this time together. And then at night, somebody said, back in the day, do you want to go to dinner with David Harbour and Sean Astin? And yeah, cool. And I got to speak with Sean Young, who I got to meet on Reno, but I love, because I love Blade Runner. Or I know Elijah Wood, we work together on Happy Feet, so I'll see Elijah, or I meet the kids from Cobra Kai, or I share conversation. I got to meet Mia Farrow because her voiceover agent said, I'm a big fan of yours, and I know Mia wants to meet you to talk about voiceover. Would you mind coming over and talking to her? I'm like, yes.
Wow.
So all these things at a convention, I really love doing conventions much more than I did being a stand-up on the road, because I'm not lonely. And I get to talk to people all day and go out with them at night. And I don't have to be the entertainment at night. I've been invited to do stand-up at cons. Would you like to do stand-up at cons? I'm like, no, I want the night off, not unless it's going to get me a little bit more attention during the day at the table, but I don't need it. I'm happy.
Yeah, and we're going to get into your next appearance. So I'm going to be covering my podcast. It's my favorite Comic-Con of the year. It's Rhode Island Comic-Con. Yep, November 1st to the 3rd, Rhode Island Convention Center. You're going to be there. The whole gang from Reno 911 is going to be there, or a lot of the gang.
A lot of the gang. I believe Mary Birdsong, Cedric Yarbrough, Tom Lennon, and I is who I know about.
Yes,
I don't know about any others, but yeah, and this is interesting because Rhode Island Comic-Con I went to years ago. And remember, I was sitting next to Don the Snake Prudhomme. No, Don the Snake Prudhomme is a dragster, but the Jake the Snake.
Okay.
And a couple of other wrestlers. And that was one of my first cons. And I remember even back then it was huge, 11, 12 years ago. So excited to come back. And I was quote unquote already coming back for doing voices, Rocco, and we can talk about that. But then Tom Lennon has decided to go out and do cons in his full regalia, right?
Yeah,
I never bring my Garcia stuff. I feel like for me, it's part of what I do. My banner has so many other things, but this time I'll be bringing the full uniform, and I believe Cedric and Mary and Tom will be too. Wow. And I'm sure we're going to be doing panels and posing and taking pictures in our full uniforms. I'm going to bring aviators to sign. This is the first time that I really go all out for just Garcia, because I'm there for many other different things that people know me for. But I'm excited that all four of us, at least, will be there. And I'm excited to see how people react to the four of us being there. Tom, New Boot Goofin, he's a big star. Cedric Yarbrough, his new movie, The Juror Number 2, the Clint Eastwood movie's coming out. Mm-hmm. And, I'm mostly known. I get a lot of love for Garcia, but I'm mostly known for my voices. So This will be nice for me to partner with the other people from Reno.
Yeah, all four of you. Like, so my daughters, we are going to, it's been a while since I got a photo op, because just for but we're getting one with the 4 of you, so that's pretty.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
pretty excited. So Mary will be on tomorrow night, so I will tell her you
Yeah.
said hello.
Mary's
She,
lovely.
wonderful
Lovely.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. So talented.
So it's funny what you said earlier. I think conventions are such a healthy thing, right? You mentioned those that might have be on the spectrum or
Yep.
for a variety of reasons. It's like I don't want to go too corny here, but it's almost like a safe haven, right? People find themselves at Comic Cons, and there's a beauty to Comic Cons that, like, years ago it had a stigma, nerds or whatever. But being a nerd now is considered cool. Like, that's evolved. That term has evolved. But Comic Cons, it's really cool to see people find their way and find their safe space, or whatever you want to call it. Just really, really sweet when you see people just kind of open up and be somebody different, or maybe more comfortable themselves. That's right. I love Comic Cons.
Yeah, let's see. I'll be diplomatic. I took my daughter to a con that's outside of the normal cons. She likes to dress up in a certain way, right? She's 10 years old, and she goes with a friend that likes to dress up the same way. They both do marionette puppets. They're into masks and all kinds of things. And I take her there, and it's Ontario, and she's with her friend. They're wearing their masks, and this girl comes by and goes, "Hey, I love your mask. Do you guys want to be my friend today?" And they're like, "Sure." And I met her uncle. And her uncle said, "Oh, this girl, she's my niece. I love her to death." And her parents really aren't so super cool on what she does here at these type of conventions. But she's the love of my life, so I'm taking her anywhere.
Right.
And the three of them started to hang out, and I'm talking to his uncle, and we're talking about life. And my daughter went to this thing, and she popped up and started doing improv. And then I'm a Los Angeles Football Club fan. Every time we win, it's a long story. We dance to Punjabi MC Beware the Boys.
Gotcha.
And it's this Indian song. And I'm like, we won the game. So I just turn on my thing and I start dancing, and I go, nobody cares here. Nobody cares. My daughter meets this friend who's wearing a mask, and it's awesome. I just loved it. So yes, I will take you to this convention. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because this is where you're totally accepted for who you are. Doesn't matter. And you know what? I found the same thing at TNT wrestling event. I remember a large young man. He had, I think, what was called elephantitis. His face was a different shape. And he was part of the wrestling crowd. They could care less. He had his Hulk Hogan or whatever type of t-shirt on, cheering on the wrestling. Nobody batted an eye. And that's what I love about these conventions, this arena, these type of people. Doesn't matter. Who cares? It's kind of the way it should be.
It should, because we these people, us, me, you, whomever, we spend our, like, I feel like during a regular life routine, all people do is try to shit on each other. Like, maybe not on purpose, but it's like if we could just take a page out of the Comic-Con playbook, right? Like, it would be just really, that's how we've got it ass backwards. Like, that's how life should be in general. And many people are kind, but the welcoming kind, and Rhode Island Comic-Con is my favorite. And I brought my daughter to one in at Mohegan Sun, and her first one was in the summer, and she absolutely loved it. Like, she almost couldn't take it. It was so much to take in. She loved it. Like, she really believed like the Joker was there, because there was people dressed up as a Joker or Batman. Like, she's like hook, line, and sinker into these things. So bringing your kids to a Comic-Con is even that much more powerful. It's a great bonding moment too, Carlos.
Yeah, it's really cool. We went to New York Comic-Con for Riley, who's on Star Trek Prodigy. She's coming with me to Chattanooga. It was going to be the whole family, but there's some Halloween stuff that Mom and Austin, my other daughter, are going to stay back. But we went to New York Comic-Con, and we're walking inside the building. There's a girl cosplaying as Raven, and my youngest daughter's like, "Can I meet her?" And I'm like, the real voice of Raven, Tara Strong. She's come to our house, But that was transcendent. She saw a Raven and had to meet her. And so, I think it's healthy. I like taking my kids to these conventions, and I want them to meet their fans. And Riley did, what was it called? Farpoint Con in Maryland 2 years ago. And she had a lot of Star Trek Prodigy fans coming up going, "I love your character, Rock Talking." They were kids, and they were adults dressed in their Star Trek uniforms. She thought it was kind of strange that I'm a kid and here's an adult that loves what I do. That's odd. But, she got used to it, and we were on stage with Billy West, and we were taking questions. And just for them to see that, look at this menagerie of people that are all, like we said, all different shapes and sizes and desires and cosplayers and robots and vampires, and it's pretty cool.
Carlos, it is a potpourri of humanity. Like
Yeah.
all walks of life.
Mhm.
You know what else? I totally did not know this. Like, and you mentioned it earlier. You are, and for those listening or watching, were the voice of the Taco Bell dog. You're the
Yeah.
voice of many things. How great that thing took off. And like many people on Reddit said this too. Like, I feel like we should still have that dog in commercials. Like, I feel like that thing should be, I feel certifiable mascot, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's a political climate now that's a little bit different, obviously a social climate.
Yeah.
But even back then, it was controversial for some who thought
Yep.
that it was stereotypical, which I've always disagreed with because it wasn't the Frito Bandito commercial. I'm
Correct.
going to steal your chips. It was a dog that was like, hey, what is a logarithm? That just
Yeah.
happened to associate itself. Apparently, the breed is from China, the Chihuahua breed, but
Right.
popularized in Mexico and became sort of aligned with Mexico. But so yeah, even back in the day. But yeah, it was a great. Whoop, let's see, phone call, spam. It was a great marketing thing. It was so surreal to be a part of it, and how big it got.
Big.
Was just out of control,
Yeah.
and I loved it. I had all these commercials. I had merchandise deal. I got to be on Hollywood Squares. I didn't go to any of the Godzilla movies. The dog went. I did not get invited, but
Yeah.
yeah, Yo Quiero Taco Bell. It was the 90s. It was right along with Clara Peller, who did Where's the Beef? So it was very demarcated by these really distinct campaigns in the 90s. They really took chances with their campaigns. And yeah, what a great character. Gidget was
Yeah.
her name. I think I'm in love. Here, little lizard. It was just bizarre. I couldn't believe it was me and how big it was and how controversial it was. It was like, it's a dog doing a voice in a commercial.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
97 to 2000.
Yeah. You know who else, speaking of dogs, I don't know if you saw the most recent Deadpool movie, the Wolverine Deadpool movie.
Yeah, that little
So that dog is going to be at Rhode Island Comic-Con, and you pay for a photo op or whatever, and they donate some of the money to animal rescue, animal shelters. So I think that's really, talk about thinking outside the box. Like, that is very clever, very
very
creative.
smart.
Yeah.
At this con we went to in Ontario, they had a fox. They brought the fox around to the audience
Yeah.
so they could look at it and aligned it with donations to help rescue these animals. I was in Kingsport, Tennessee. Colleen O'Shaughnessy and I plays Tails in Sonic. Colleen, we went and posed with a wolf and an owl at the same time. So you hold a wolf and you have the owl on your arm. It's like, be careful not to do this. Be careful not to do that. I'm like, take the picture. The same
like
thing.
yeah.
They were aligned with a benefit for these types of animals and taking care of them, and I think that's really cool. Yeah, that you can tie those in together. So
yeah, your voice work is stunning. Like I knew you did it, but like I didn't know how in depth your filmography is. Do you ever get surprised at a Comic-Con, right? Because just for those listening again or watching, Rocco's Modern Life, we talked about Taco Bell, Reno 911, which we're going to get to, Planes, which my daughter and I loved.
I'll bring some plane stuff.
Yes, Mr. Weed, Family Guy, which people thought he should have lasted a lot longer than he did. But
could have been nice.
Yeah, Mr. Crocker, Fairly Odd. I mean, are you ever stunned with what people approach you with, that what's in your filmography and how it might have changed their life or touched their childhood or meant a great deal to them? Are you ever caught off guard, Carlos, with what people approach you with?
Yeah, the first time that was Spyro the Dragon, because this was a voice that I had kind of just left. I thought it was an easy voice. It was right after Rocco, and I remember being at a con and somebody says, "Do you have any Spyro stuff?" And I'm like, "What? Spyro the Dragon?" And then the floodgates opened. I said I was Spyro. I found out. I started advertising that I was the original Spyro. Of course, Tom Kenny, Elijah Wood, Jess Harnell. And yeah, this guy was like, "Watch out for Nasty Nork. He's toast." These were games where grown men, like military guys, were like, I played this game when I was overseas. It really, meant a lot to me. And I'm like, okay, wow. So Spyro was one of those. Wow, Wubsy every once in a while. Even, which is weird to get credit for. I did Billy Crystal sound alike stuff for many years. I still do it, but being his voice in Kingdom Hearts 3, that's one thing I advertise. I got to play Mike Wazowski in this game. I never say that I am the voice of him. I say I got to play him, because obviously Billy Crystal is. I'm not comfortable, but So yeah, somebody might say, I love you as Mike Wazowski in Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'm like, oh, well, that's really flattering because obviously Billy Crystal is the real guy. And for you to say you liked what I did means I got pretty close to what he did. So that's always
Your
fun.
Billy Crystal's amazing, by the way. Like that's
Yeah, I worked on it for many hours. It's a thing.
But yeah, I would say with Spyro the Dragon, I was blown away. And I've told the story many times, maybe 6 or 7 times. I didn't get how certain things resonated with people. So for a military person to go, hey man, Rocco's Modern Life, you're the person I came to see. Like I'll be at Rhode Island with a lot of big heavy hitters, and somebody will come up to me and goes, we drove 4 hours just to see you. And I'm like, well, A is here, B is here, A-list celebrities here, and you came to see me. All right, I'll take it. And I didn't get how voices resonated with people. And then one day I'm with D. Bradley Baker and Fred Tatasciore. If you're in the voiceover world, they're mega talented guys, but they're my friends. No big deal, right? I work with them. And one day we're in a lobby at Salami Studios here in Los Angeles, and we're talking about video games, and I don't play them. I stink. I only play Left 4 Dead. I told Fred and D, and I go, I only play Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. And Fred looks at me and goes, well, I'm Boomer. And I'm like, he's the big guy that throws up on you. And he goes, yeah, I'm Spitter and I'm the Joker. And I'm like, oh, no way. Oh my God. Oh, I totally fanboyed out over them.
Yeah.
Because I had spent a couple hundred hours trying to beat this game. And I know these characters, they're in me, they're indelible. But I had no idea it was them. And I was blown away. And then I go, oh, now I understand it. People did play hours of Spyro the Dragon. It was one of the first PS1 games. People did watch hours of Rocco. People did watch hours of Mr. Crocker. So when people say that they came to see just you, I can understand it. Because if I were a Left 4 Dead fan, and the voice of those characters was at a con, I would go past all the A-listers and be like, I got to meet you because I played this game.
Yeah. That's really sweet. Do any of these characters, Carlos, long after you've played them, whether it's Reno 911, which we're going to get into in a second, or any of these voiceover work that you've done, do any of the characters ever come back to at a random moment? Like, so like long after the project, do you ever get hit with something like, oh, okay, like this? Does that ever happen as an actor?
We can say right with Static Cling coming back in 2016 after Rocco had ended in 1995, as it were. Yeah, that was pretty magical. I remember being at lunch with my social media manager, and I look over and Doug Lawrence, Kaz, and Joe Murray and Martin Olson walk in together. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are you guys together? What's going on? And he's like, keep it under your belt. We're going to do a Rocco. I'm like, no way.
Wow.
Maybe 4 years after the Taco Bell dog had ended, Geico came out with a spot where the lizard is auditioning to be the spokesperson, and the Chihuahua walks out and looks at the lizard and goes, oh, great, a talking gecko. So that was cool to come back and revisit that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then recently there was a Family Guy, and I do a lot of incidentals for Family Guy and American Dad. There was a project maybe 2 years ago where Mr. Weed comes back in an episode where Peter goes back in time, and Mr. Weed goes, okay, Peter, I'll be seeing you a lot these next couple of years. He got killed. But things like that have come back to revisit, and it's really wonderful. Getting to continue to do Mr. Crocker, both live action on a Fairly Odder, and now the new Fairly Odd Parents. Crocker has a couple cameos. I play Mr. Guzman in the new version, but yeah, Crocker got to come back again. There's probably a few others, even Garcia coming back after all those years. I was let go along with Mary and Wendy after the 5th season, and then to come back in 2018 or 2019, just before COVID, and do those newer episodes. I didn't think that was going to happen. They had asked me to do some live stuff, but I didn't think Garcia was ever going to come back. And I'm like, hey, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I'll come back.
So, Carlos, why were the three of you let go? Why is that something you're comfortable talking about?
I think it was just, let's just say, the creative decision that's the direction they wanted to go. I really have no answer to that.
Because Garcia's like an OG, like he was there. I just don't know how you're 5 seasons in and say, you know what, let's change this up a little bit. I don't understand that
Yeah,
at all. Like,
it's a question I can't answer, but I've always been diplomatic. It's the way they wanted to go, and of course now I'm friends with Tom, and we're working on rock paper scissors together.
yeah,
But yeah, boy, I remember, same with Wendy. Wendy's obviously incredible.
yeah,
It was a direction they decided to take, um, and it definitely was painful. But it was what it was. I think I was well adjusted enough at that time to go, oh gosh, this hurts. But how do I play this? I play it like I don't know what happened, which
right.
is the truth, And so, yeah, I think it was best. The way we all responded was, I think, pretty much the right way to respond, which is to say, it wasn't our decision. It hurt. Gosh, I guess I'll never know why that decision was made, but here we are now.
Yeah, and when we talk about like the way the seasons 4 or 5, if my memory is correct, like you're this main character who's like in scenes, but like not with a ton of talking. I think fans on Reddit were confused by that. I'm confused by that. Like
Mhm.
it was almost like having a star athlete and not knowing how to use that star athlete. Like it's just, okay, we'll put you in the shotgun or we'll put you out wide, or like
Yeah.
not knowing how to use it. And it was weird because you're seeing this like super talented character that is beloved, and it's like kind of I don't want to say it, reduced to like minimal lines, and like
Sure.
I didn't understand that. I don't, for the life of me, I don't know. If it's
Yeah,
not broke, don't fix it.
personally, it was very hard. It was hard to take a step back and not be as featured, but along with many other things, and it's still, you show up, you do your work, you're professional. I am getting paid for it, which is nice.
Right.
But yeah, I would have. It's hard to go from a more of a starring featured role to a lesser role. But like I say, many years later, here I am, one of the leads with
Yeah.
Tom Lennon and Ron Funches on Rock Paper Scissors, and so I'm back again.
Yes.
And I got to get back on Reno. And I got to get some juicy scenes, and ironically, I worked those other Tubi, Quibi, and the other stuff, and the Roku wasn't as featured again. And ironically, for the movie It's a Wonderful Heist, I was going to be in a lot more stuff, but I got COVID halfway through.
Okay.
And I was like, oh gosh, the movie where I was going to get featured a little bit more, but it's okay.
No, I got you. Yeah, and I'm not going to dwell on that on this thing, but like, do you feel like if they had to do it again, the same decision would have been made, or do you think it would have been? Let's stick with what's working here. If you had to guess,
I think they would have. I would like to think that they would have liked just to stick with the original cast and really make it work, But I love Ian Roberts, and I love Joe Latrulio.
Yeah.
And they certainly got some good people in our stead, and I really treasure and revere working with those guys. So yeah, I always love the OG stuff. It's almost because I was just thinking about The Office. I've never watched the American Office. I love the British Office, and I like. Could anybody else watch a different version of Reno 911 with an all new cast, like a British version of Reno? I just don't.
No
Once
way.
you get the OG, it's like an album. Like me, I'm the purist. I'm an Iron Maiden fan, but I love Paul Di'Anno. So I can't Bruce Dickinson, anything Bruce Dickinson and after. I'm not going to listen to it. I just don't like. I'm sorry, I'm a purist.
Yeah,
and you're just not going to listen to it. So maybe there's some Reno fans out there that for me, Reno. My favorites are season 1 through 3.
Yeah, I would agree.
I liked it the way. I think when Michael Jan was at the helm, I really loved the way he story told. I like Reno 911, Miami the movie, and that was directed by Robert Ben Grant.
Yeah, me too.
But I really loved the first 3 seasons. I thought it was really truly more ensemble, and it was more generous, I think, with all of the cast. But hey, listen, it's all good, it's all great, but those are my favorite 3 for sure. And I miss those scenes with Niecy and Wendy, and I think I kissed the most people on the cast. I kissed David Holm, I kissed Tom Lennon, I kissed Carrie, I kissed Niecy, and I kissed Wendy. Yeah, like 5 people. I was kissing everybody.
You and Wendy had some iconic scenes together, but we'll get there in a second. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about your animated work, and I was thinking about Family Guy. Family Guy and The Simpsons and American Dad. When you're watching, it's like you're hit by one joke, you're laughing till you can't breathe, and then another joke is equally as funny or more, and then you keep getting peppered with jokes. I feel like Reno 911 is the anti-animated equivalent to that, right? Because very few shows on TV make you laugh this hard. Like those first 3 seasons, nobody had ever seen anything like that before, right? It's like the show Cops, but like you're getting like the comedic version of it, you know. And it's I don't know. I just feel like my late father loved those early seasons, loved the show, and you know we I don't know, the jokes they hit you over the head and they just keep coming. Like and the episodes are supremely rewatchable. Like you can just keep watching and watching. I own those original seasons on like a DVD, so I'm old school myself. But yeah, I just your work in that is just so amazing. You can tell it still affects people a lot.
Yeah, I think the most iconic early Reno that defined what the show was about was when I get punched in the face by Jones because I tell a Pollock joke. Right. How many Pollocks does it take to get out of a stolen car or whatever? And he gets offended and he punches me. So he's on crosswalk duty. And then each character got to come up and have their scene with Jones at the crosswalk. And it was very well doled out between every character. And I thought that really illustrated what that show was really all about and how it could really excel. Yeah, and just the lines were stupid improv, right? One of my favorite lines that I don't think anybody really appreciates is the Halloween episode, and we're in the graveyard, and these kids have eggs. And Jones is saying, hey, you better get out of here. That's it. Disperse. Get out of here. He's like, I'm going to count to 10. And Garcia chimes in, my partner will count. You know?
I love it's a little scene, but it's so funny. The good cop, black cop, where Garcia clearly doesn't know what he's trying to say. Like
one of my favorite
is Garcia. I guess everyone in the show is kind of alike in that way. But how would you describe Garcia? Is he a good guy? Like
he's a good guy, but he's self-loathing, right? Really doesn't really like his Mexican heritage. You know, really doesn't like Spanish people. Doesn't like himself. Needs life to be fair for everybody when it isn't. He just gets pissed off, insecure, doesn't know women, and he really needs his partner Jones. He's a really sad guy.
Yeah.
And I tell you, after 2 weeks, this wasn't method acting. This is not Daniel Day-Lewis but after 2 weeks, I felt like nobody liked me because I was really sunk into that character. We would film 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And I'd take all my clothes off and just be me again. And I'm like, hey guys, hey Carlos, what's going on? Oh, you do like me because Garcia I tried to make him one of those guys that, well, hey, y'all want to go out? No, we're busy. Okay, well, I guess I'll go home and watch Wheel of Fortune then or something like that. You know, I tried to make him sad. And Good Cop, Black Cop, that's when we got up in a rehearsal room and I think the sketch was Good Cop, Bad Cop. And maybe Cedric and I just said, we're going to do a little thing called Good Cop, Black Cop. And he says, what? And Tom just immediately said, stop. Got it. That's all we're rehearsing. We're going to save it. And so that was brilliant. Tom and Ben and Terry were brilliant at stopping rehearsal so that we wouldn't kill it later on. But yeah, that's definitive of a guy that's just trying to fit in. It has no idea. The 15-year anniversary, Michael Patrick Jan had no idea I was going to go as crazy. I knew I was going to go crazy. Nobody else on the set knew I was going to go that crazy. When I missed the piñata, I'm like, this is my 15-year mother blanker. Yeah. Woo! Let's have a beer. Let's have some fun. And they're like, no, it's too late to have fun, dude. You went a little psycho there. So Patrick Jan comes up afterwards like, that was an interesting choice, but it worked because it scared the cast a little bit. It was a weird reaction, and it worked. Like, dude, you take it easy. You just shot a piñata. So, but I didn't tell him. I didn't tell Dave Holm and I didn't tell Tom Lennon. It's the scene I think when Carrie's pregnant, somebody's in the hospital, and Dave Holm comes to visit Carrie Kenny, and that's Tom Lennon's boyfriend in the show. Or wannabe boyfriend, but Dave Holm and we just planted this big old wet kiss in front of the whole cast, and they were like, "What?" It was another one of those moments where it was a great reaction because it was natural, you know.
Yeah. How do you guys not make each other laugh? I feel like how does that happen? Like I would think it would take forever to shoot one of these episodes because you guys can't. Like I don't know. It's just the stuff I see. I'm like, I can't even keep a straight face.
No, corpsing is what Ricky Gervais called it, right? Go ahead and look at the scene where TT thinks that she's won the Nevada lottery. However, she unfortunately has purchased a California lottery ticket. there's a scene in the little market where we have to go up and tell TT that she's lost. And you see me, and Wendy's looking at me, and she's like, go. And I go off stage. She's like, why don't you just go over there for a second, Garcia? Because I'm losing it. There's no way I cannot bust up and ruin this scene. So I had to leave. So it was very hard for me.
My favorite Garcia scene is all around the Kenny Rogers. That's easily my favorite, just because it's so out of left field. I mean, everything out of Reno 911's out of left field, but this is more out of left field. And then I think it's Patton Oswalt that comes out of nowhere
and does the Dan Rather line.
Yeah, I love you, gambler, and then like shoots him. He
says, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" Which was what happened to Dan Rather.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. But
great line by Patton. And for me, riding around in a car in Northridge, California, with Kenny Rogers in the front seat, windows down, pull up next to this girl, I blast Sweet Home Alabama. I'm blasting it because I want her to look over and see Kenny Rogers, and she will not look. She's not looking. I'm like, I have Kenny Rogers in my, and I had decided that Garcia is going to be such a super fan that he's going to talk his ear off. So I bought all the Gambler movies I could get, and I watched them, and I took notes, and David Lincoln got me more movies. He was the producer. And so I had a notepad in me while we're driving. It's like, so in that scene where he's the gambler does this and he says that, and then he's supposed to leave the coffin, and it's like Kenny Rogers played right along with it. Like, oh man, this guy is an idiot. So it was wonderful. And that's the scene where Kerry Kenny, who's playing the mock Kenny Rogers, but looks more like Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders, yeah.
Comes up after he's been shot. And I was just like, we should kiss. And we just kiss. I'm like, why am I kissing Weigel dressed as Kenny Rogers? It makes no sense.
No, but that's the genius of nothing makes sense, but it all makes sense, right? It's just so beautiful. So it's the celebrity guests that, Carlos, that really get me. Like Paul Rubens, people forget, like Paul Rubens was a part of it. Zach Galifianakis, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, he was Frisbee. Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
Yeah.
And so nice. Made cookies and cards for the entire cast.
Yeah, Nick Swartzen, who might as well have been a regular. I mean,
yeah, Nick was great.
Yeah,
Terry Bernardino.
Yeah, when those people come on the show, right? I mean, like, so what a blessing that Kenny Rogers was able to go along with it, right? Because I wonder if there's ever a situation where somebody comes on the show that doesn't have that comedic timing, or doesn't, like, sarcasm doesn't translate with them. Like, I wonder if that's ever an issue, not only just for Reno 911, but like any show where, well, especially I guess for Reno 911, where you have to have somebody, like, you have to get a vibe of the show. Like, it would be an awkward fit for some people.
Why am I blanking on his name? Our good friend from all the Clint Eastwood, Paul Thomas Hauser. Is that right?
Yes,
Paul Thomas Hauser?
Yes.
He was wonderful. He's such a sweet guy. He used to work at Flappers Comedy Club.
Yeah.
He's just a wonderful guy. I happen to see from time to time Jesse Plemons in our gym, and we get to talk. And he came up one day because I said something because I'm a fan of his work.
Yeah.
If Jesse from Killers of the Flower Moon, Friday Night Lights, Kinds of Kindness, all kinds of stuff, Game Night, Fargo. And he said, hey man, Reno 911. He's a big fan of Reno 911. So I want to tell Tom, I'm like, Tom, he's a fan. If we ever do anything, he would love to be on the show. And that's somebody like Paul Thomas Hauser, who would, I think, love to play along. George Lopez came on as Mayor Hernandez. I think that before people came on, Jamie Lee Curtis was a big fan of the show. I remember coming down the steps, and because I thought it was Wendy, and I'm like, good morning. And she looked at me and goes, you're funny. And I went, okay, that's it. I win.
Yeah.
And because the guests that, even Sean Young, like I said, I'm a huge Blade Runner fan. So she signed my Future Noir book in my trailer. I was like, oh my God. The guests that did come on, I think they really did know the show. So they weren't going to be a stick in the mud or whatever. They really wanted to work with us. So I don't think it was really ever that much of a problem. Paul Rubens, obviously, with his Groundlings background, not a problem at all.
Right.
And Nick Swartzen, a comic who's brilliant, not a problem at all. I can't recall anybody with the 5 seasons I did that was a guest star that just was like, no, this is dumb. They're like, we want to play.
Right.
Paul Rudd, who they knew from Wet Hot Wild American Summer. Is that what it's called?
Yes. Yep.
Paul Rudd was amazing in the film.
I forgot Paul Rudd.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson came up and he's looking at everybody. He's like, you, Williams, Garcia. I'm like, he knows my character.
Wow.
The Condor. Yeah, I know the pin came out of the thing and whatever, and he explodes. You know, he did his one quick scene.
Yeah.
We had The Rock. You know, everybody loved the show and wanted to be a part of it, and that was flattering to know you are part of something so iconic that people want to play along with you is pretty cool.
Super rewatchable, iconic. I have a few more questions, and thank you for all this time, Carlos.
You're
Carlos,
welcome.
my last question about your character. Do you think Jones likes Garcia in any way, or you think it's just a job thing?
Yeah, I think early on, I think he does. I think he feels sorry for him, and I think he's like he's a little brother, even though I'm older, that he couldn't fix. And we're in the cemetery together. I think he likes him as a reluctant friend. There's in the newer seasons we get married for my citizenship, but I know Cedric likes me. So in that
Yeah.
sense, I think he does hate Garcia. I think he feels sorry for him.
Yeah.
And so it might be a pathetic kind of love, but there's still love for Garcia from Jones. He's like, he's my partner. He's technically a good guy, even though he's a racist idiot.
It's funny because I always used to get Garcia confused with Travis Jr. because I thought they're so alike. But like, I mean, obviously, when you watch the show out for a while, you obviously there's a difference between the two. But Travis Jr. is more of kind of he's not the crispiest cookie in the cookie jar, right? Like that's his thing, you know. But like easily my two favorite characters, like they're just too great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to end the interview with just a few questions from the good fan base at Reddit that love the show. What's your favorite improvised moment that made it to television?
Oh my gosh,
it's a great question.
Mine, the one that I did, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, within Reno, it's on the show, and I think it's even before we had him on. The kids are jumping their bicycles from one roof to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid brilliantly says, I bet you I can ride my bicycle, jump that from this roof to that roof. I'm like, oh, okay, Mr. Kenny Rogers. All right, gambler. All right. Here's Jones. What do you got? 3? I got 5. Here's 8 Washout County dollars. So that moment right there, to come up with that, I was very proud of that moment for sure.
Yeah, that's
moment. Yeah.
Pretty creative. What's the future of Reno 911?
As long as Niecy Nash is alive and on this planet, the future is still pretty bright. Carrie told me that apparently that they still have all the costumes tucked away on the Paramount lot, ready to go at any moment's notice. So I think if it's the Iron Giant's finger and it's going across the snow to get back through the continents, I think it's beeping and heading back. It's heading back to the Iron Giant's body.
Yeah. That's a great reference, by the way. By the way, totally random question. Did you see Wild Robot? Phenomenal.
I did. I really enjoyed it, and it had elements, obviously, of Iron Giant.
Yes, that's what made me think.
Thought it was beautiful, emotional, very well animated, very well acted. I enjoyed it. Yes, I did.
Carlos, I never seen a movie that looks like that. Like it was like watching a painting for an hour. Yeah, it's like sorry about that, Rand. That's my ADD.
No, it's gorgeous.
So you talked about the future. Tell Carlos we love him. Yo quiero Taco Bell. 2 more from the Reddit crew. Making the Reno 911 movies versus the television show, are there major differences in the way it's composed?
Yeah, they're more plot intensive. You have to get to a beginning, middle, and end within the framework of a general plot that has to last an hour, hour and 10, hour and 20.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more plotted out. You're a little bit less freedom. You really have to hit your marks in some things. So yeah, the show was much more, especially the first couple of seasons, we were just free to just, because they're general calls, you know?
Right. The last one is Officer Garcia's. You don't have to do everybody, but favorite to least favorite officers. I think favorite would clearly be Jones, but you could finish off this list. Who do you think he hates the most? If there is
I think he was at odds with Dangle the most, because I think Garcia would like to think that he's the ultimate source of authority. Yeah. And it clearly was not the case. Dangle runs morning meetings. He's lieutenant. I'm a deputy. Weigel, I'm going to drop her off at the halfway house, halfway between here and where I live. Weigel would probably be number 2. Niecy, because, well, she's a little uppity, you know. Niecy Nash Williams.
Yeah.
Kimball, I have an affinity for because she likes affinity. So she's going to be the one I hate the least.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are we including Declan? His temper gets in the way.
Yep.
So he's a mad. What's Latrulio's character's name? I kind of like him because he's Italian and I like their food. And then Wendy, well, we had a bond, but the way she left me after she would not eat something of lesser equal value kind of stung me a little bit. Although in the end, I shun her because she's too on me.
Yeah.
And then Junior is going to be right behind Kimball in terms of the person I like the most. I think we're kindred folks there.
Well, that's a great answer. Do police ever approach you, whether it's Comic-Con or while you're filming or seeing you on the street? Do police ever approach you about the role?
Nowadays, not so much. People do, but way back when I would go on the road as a comic, and they would find out I was there, and they would come and they would give me patches. Every once in a while, Reno, at cons and conventions, they'll come up and say, "Hey, man, I'm an officer. Here's a patch. We really love the show." But yeah, back in the day, I got taken to police stations in Joliet, Illinois, actually, or Vernon Hills, Illinois. I got taken to the police department to meet the dispatcher because they were fans of the show.
Yeah, Carlos, is voiceover work the dream gig, like compared to movie making or TV making or I don't want to say like you hit the lottery, but like I would sometimes they get to do it from home. Yeah, what's your take on it? Is that the role you want the most?
I think it is now. I mean, it's relative to the project. Sometimes you're working on a project and you're chewing out your voice and it's not that interesting. And you're bored and you're doing all these lines and you're thrashing your throat. And then sometimes you're on a movie set and you're in your trailer all day and they need you for 2 seconds and you're gone. And that's not fun. So it's always relative to the project. But yeah, I like my life as a voiceover actor. I love being able to try new characters and do new things. Most recently on Exploding Kittens. If you're watching that on Netflix, I got to play Chorgle, the animated rat. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't have a good time with you. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't have a good time with you. And I got to create that voice because I love Ed Orgeron from LSU, the football coach. We played a good defense up there where Joe Burrow's our quarterback, and I think we're going to come along in the fourth quarter and win this game. Go Tigers. So that was a game where I got to pick characters and use my dialects. And so in terms of getting to be able to use what's best in my toolbox, voiceover is the gig that I really, really enjoy. I started as a wallaby, and I got to do this and go crazy as Mr. Crocker. It's really, you get to go to all points of the universe with voiceover.
The one thing, Carlos, that I was taken back by researching your life was the amount of people whose life you've affected with your voiceover work, like key moments in their lives, markers in their timeline of life. It's just, I don't know, man. That's as an actor, I would think that's the ultimate currency, right? How you affect somebody's life. Yes, getting paid is great, being well known is great, but having an effect on somebody's life, man, that's where it's at. I would have to think.
Yeah, and beyond just the people we meet at conventions, which is wonderful, to be at the gym and talk to, again, like somebody like Jesse Plemons, who I revere as an actor, but for him to turn around and go, "Man, Reno 911, you guys were great." Like, "Oh, you watch what I do, and you're a fan of what I do." Those two disparate populations, somebody who's very famous and accomplished versus people that are just working everyday jobs or kids with disabilities. To be able to attract that range of people for what you do is, and then this is what, back to this, it makes conventions so wonderful. You have no idea. But again, Fred Tatasciore and Dee Bradley Baker had no idea how much they've touched my life.
Right.
With that game, you made me happy.
Yeah. And Jesse Plemons lost a ton of weight, didn't he? Like, he looks great.
He works with a guy named Nick, his buddy, and they train hard. They come in, they're all business. They're all business. They come in and do what they need to do. But yeah, he lost a ton of weight.
Because I didn't like the comments that like people throw at, like, come on, like people are like, oh, they made jokes about you, not jokes, but like implying that he was, he needed to lose weight or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's boundaries. Like, even if somebody's famous, like there's boundaries that like kind of need to be respected, I believe. Like
yeah, I think we all want to shape the way other people are supposed to be,
Yeah.
People will say that this new Fairly Odd Parents, I didn't like it. You should never have done it. And it's like, it's okay. It's all right. We did it. It's fine. You like the other one better. Or even Reno 911. The new Reno 911 without Garcia didn't like us, but you can like whatever you want.
Right.
It's fun. But yeah, to go beyond and try to direct everything the way that you want it to be, which, you know, I try to do with family life, right? I want it to be this kind of wife and this kind of kid and this. Yeah, social media can tend to be very cruel in that sense, where people just have. I remember I recently, and we'll get into it a little bit. There was a comment where Guillermo del Toro, who I think is brilliant, made a comment about we over fantasize. We talk about romance. Everything either has to be black and white. Either you love this or you hate that. And I go, well, I didn't like the movie you made about the woman, even though at the end she's a fish falling in love with a fish guy. I thought it was very two-dimensional. I'm not a fan of that. And people are insulting me. And I'm like, I'm okay if you disagree with me, but you don't need to insult me.
Right.
Just say you disagree with my premise, because I'm not insulting you back. I'm just saying for this film, I think it belies what he's saying. I think this film was trumped up on romance and yada, yada. So I had my opinion on that. And people just want to attack my status, my this, my that. I go, clearly you've lost the argument when you start attacking people. Just have an opinion about it. Go, I disagree with you. I love that movie. Okay. Like Megalopolis, right? Coppola this, Coppola that. Just say you didn't like the film.
Right.
You don't have to attack him. He tried it. Didn't work. There you go.
Carlos, and things get personal so fast. Like, it's just like, come on. If you disagree with it, then you disagree. Fine. Let's have a discussion on why you, whatever. But like, you're this or you must be, come on. Like, I don't know. It's just after a while.
I always try to stick to my points, you know. Here's why I think, and I might be wrong, but here's why I think this is this way, you know. And I said, I think he's a genius. I love all of his other work. I love Pan's Labyrinth. I don't like this film. I didn't like it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Not only, and then it's not even that. I said, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But pertaining the clip he plays where he's talking about romance and making everything romantic belies what that movie, I think, was doing, you know. So I made all these points and yada yada. That's a whole 2 hours. And
I love The Shape of Water. And I agree with your points. I could see where you're coming from, you know.
Yeah, I said, according to what he said, you know, not making a romantic. I thought they both had great bodies, right?
Yep.
The female and he had great bodies.
Yep.
Nobody's gonna watch a movie about an overweight woman falling in love with a gelatinous 5-armed sea creature and them having sex.
Right.
So you have to romanticize it to
Right.
get the audience to watch it.
Right.
So that's all I was saying. And I said, if you want a true movie about unconditional love, where the two main players don't have sex, watch My Octopus Teacher. It's a documentary, but this is a man from South Africa who has fallen in unconditional love with a creature he can only touch very briefly, doesn't want to interfere with its life, not going to save it from other creatures, and it's only going to live a year. And this is a movie, I think that's the movie Guillermo del Toro is talking about. That's unconditional love. So
that movie broke my heart. That movie broke my heart.
Right?
Oh, that movie left me sobbing. That movie left me sobbing.
But I'll go back and say Maya and the Three, Jorge Gutierrez, that's Jorge's guy, Guillermo del Toro. And he's brilliant. Guillermo del Toro is brilliant.
Brilliant.
That movie was not one of my favorite of his. And so that's what I put out online. And then, it gets so, but I didn't disrespect him. I just said, I disagree. The point he's making, I disagree with based on this film. That's all.
Right. No, fair enough. You know, I'm so glad you brought My I love that.
Isn't it beautiful?
Beautiful.
Another great movie, and I think my kids might be ready for it. It's called The Biggest Little Farm. That came out about 6 years ago, and a couple has a dog that's barking in an apartment, and they have to move. So they move out into Moore Park, California, right when the big fires hit, and then they have to move again, and they decide we're going to start a farm, a multi-crop farm. And they're like, we don't know what we're doing. And they meet a guy from Tennessee who says, I got a 7-year plan, and it's going to start with making a tea that's going to grow and attract worms, and you're going to make a worm tea. Like, what the hell are you talking? And then it just goes from there. The cycle of life, how they survive, how one predator eats another predator, how it all works in conjunction without pesticides. You can do this all naturally. Just let nature take care of itself. Animals come, they die, they get killed. Life, death. It's wonderful.
Yeah. What's it called again, Carlos?
It's called The Biggest Little Farm.
Now, does it tug at your heartstrings? Are there
Yeah.
scenes that are hard to watch?
Yeah, there's scenes that are hard to watch because you have to accept death as part of life.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch
Yeah.
it. You don't want to watch people going through that or animals going through that, but that's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's really well said. You could meet Carlos at Rhode Island Comic Con, November 1st to the 3rd at the Rhode Island Convention Center. Carlos, I will be meeting you in person with my 4-year-old daughter. We will both be there. And I look very much to shaking your hand and doing that photo op, which I'm very excited about.
Likewise. And if you want to come up to me and talk about The Shape of Water, let's have a nice, good discussion about it.
Yes.
I am a fan of Guillermo del Toro. I think he's brilliant. I love Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
I think that movie is just amazing. So come talk to me about it. Let's make this national.
You are a wonderful human being, and thank you for all the work you've done. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, dear. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you, Carlos. Thank you.